stuff about who's, how the ball carrying and guy's allowed to lead in with a shoulder, but the tackling guy isn't. And that, I think, that's where I saw that as well.
I think you're spot on, Al. I mean, I think, to be clear, Nagama was defending himself. I thought he was about to get absolutely smashed by Inu because he'd got himself into a bad position, and Inu surprised him, as you rightly said. But the reality is, he put his shoulder in to try and protect himself, and he didn't get his arm round. Yeah. So under the letter of the law, it should have been a pen. But there you go.
Yeah, the only thing that I think the only decision that I really am 100% clear about is the Dudson play the ball mistake.
Yeah,
that Kendall got wrong. Everything else, and even I called that wrong when I saw it live, and he's seen it live as I am. That's the only decision that I can look at objectively after it and say he got that one wrong. I can argue the toss about each of the other ones that are 50-50s.
Yeah.
So to me, there's a huge amount of refs faulting about ultimately. There was a piece in the commentary after about. Sorry, there's a piece in the commentary. I can't remember. It might have been Barry Mack who said it actually.
Just after half time.
Yeah, we haven't called Kendall's name. He must have had a good game.
And everyone agreed with him.
There was a 10-minute spell, wasn't there, Al, like you say, and everyone's kicking off about a 10-minute spell where a few 50-50s, maybe a couple of 60-40s went against Salford at the time where they were in the last chance saloon, because the difference between 26 and 22-6, it just felt like on 61 minutes at 20-6, they had a chance, didn't they? And then everything just didn't go for them for the next 10 minutes. And at 22-6, after 71 minutes, I don't think they had a chance. And the narrative's boiled up from there, weirdly, hasn't it?
Yeah, this is the thing. It's like this is what I don't understand. This is my fundamental issue. It's like they're not watching the game. if anyone who knows anything about rugby league, take off your blinkers. If you watch that game, St Helens were way better than Salford, and that's not to say that Salford were bad. St Helens were just controlling, physically dominant, and could have easily blown the score out. It was only kind of Salford's resolve that I think kept it under 30-40, to be brutally honest, because a lot of teams they would have blown away in that second half, but they didn't.
No, do you know what they did? They just stopped him, didn't they? And I think that's part of the reason why people had talked about the referee so much, because live I didn't feel like we needed to talk about the referee at all in the stadium.
No, me neither.
After the first half, everyone was talking about how great the performance of both sides was for the first 25 minutes by Saints, the last 15 minutes by Salford. That's all people were talking about, how great that first half was.
It's a great game.
Yeah, but the second half, Saints just stopped Salford from doing anything to hurt them, really, other than that 40-20. Every time that they looked like they were going to get round them, they didn't. Every time Evans picked up the ball in space and looked like he was going to get round the outside of the centre or the half-back on his arcing runs, he didn't get past him. So they never really... There was one, I think, offload from Jones where Evans popped up back on the inside where actually there was a bit of incision, and even that was closed down pretty quickly. Saints really closed everything down that Salford could do to them in that second half. So all we had to talk about was outside of the watching the action and feeling, like you say, Alan, how the game was actually being played. But anyone else who wasn't feeling in that moment feeling it, all they had to talk about was the referee, and that's why it's the TV audience, the neutral audience, that are getting on his back more.
Yeah.
One more thing to talk about before we kind of close off with our final views of the overarching theme of the game. But one more thing from the game to talk about, Alan. You enjoyed this, didn't you?
I love a disrespectful drop goal. Big fan of a disrespectful drop goal. And particularly from a guy who's got 1.5 shoulders.
And no previous drop goals.
Because he was calling you actually, to be fair, you spotted it, didn't you? He was calling it.
Yeah.
And oh my God, I loved it. I love a disrespectful drop goal. because it's just it's a big fuck you, isn't it? At the end of the game. And yeah, when it doesn't matter, and particularly a guy who's got no record of it, you weren't expecting it in a million years. The guy's clearly crocked. He probably knows this is his last kind of 5 minutes of rugby of the year. And he just thought, sod it, I'll have a go.
After the final hooter was him definitely knowing that he wasn't going on the Britain tour.
Yeah.
He pretty much said as much, didn't he, to Jenna when he was being interviewed?
Yeah.
Well, you know, don't you? I guess he knows that better than anyone. So
okay, so we've managed to talk.
We had no idea, by the way, that he had that in his locker. He can drop goals for us next year now.
We've managed to talk for half an hour or so about the ins and outs of this game, and do you know who we haven't talked about yet in particular detail? And it's time to get to it. Thompson. Who are our star players? I'm going to let you go first on this, Alan, because I was kind of, well, Walmsley's been good, Coote's been good, so-and-so's been good, but you were like, no, man of the match is.
I'm sorry, it was, my God, this man. I mean, I haven't actually seen him live too many times, and it's the same with Makinson, actually. It's only really when you see them live that you realise how hard these guys hit the line. Luke Thompson, my God, this guy is a machine. Best prop in the world, probably the best forward in the world, probably. Certainly at the moment.
Well, ain't nobody like John Bateman. No, Thompson. Yeah, you were calling it from about the hour mark. You were like, he's still not gone off.
Yeah.
and then you were like, it's still running as hard as well.
Yeah.
And he won that penalty, didn't he?
He was still breaking through.
On the 61st minute, he was still the prop who had the energy to hit the line fast and step just before it to win the penalty.
Yeah. This is the thing. He'd already kind of seen off, you know, these players had been off, come back on again, and he was still there, and he was still physically dominant.
Yeah.
You know, I think he had one bad run all game, and that's when he had cramp.
And he still carried it when he had cramp.
He still carried it in, and he didn't drop it, and he, you know.
Yeah, I think Walmsley maybe had a couple of runs, and certainly the try assist, Vinol's try as well, probably had a few more spectacular moments than Thompson did. Even Thompson's best runs came off a couple of offloads that Walmsley gave him.
Yes.
But Thompson did it for so long throughout the game, didn't he?
Yeah.
And people were talking about, Coote's kicking's been good, he's been very controlled, and he was fantastic, but Thompson just... It felt like he was a reason, and the way he played and the way he carried the other forwards with him in the way he played was the reason why Saints won this game so much.
Well, we talked a little bit, didn't we, about substitutions, and it helps when you're not subbing one prop, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because you know, you take Walmsley off, then you put LMS on, and then you can move Ashworth in, because for me, Ashworth probably, I think the circumstances overawed him a little bit. He was probably the weakest player, but in terms of, just not be, you know, Salford had kind of dipped into their interchanges quite heavily in the first half. I think Saints made 2 interchanges in the first half, maybe.
I can confirm.
It was something like that. LMS came on.
So LMS came on for Alex Walmsley after 23 minutes, and Jack Ashworth came on for Morgan Knowles after 35 minutes. Saints actually only used 7 of their 8 substitutions in this game as well, by the way. They didn't use all 8 substitutions in a grand final, and that's because of
because
Luke
they didn't need to put Roby back on, did they? They managed to put his feet up for 20 minutes. So, yeah, dominant, really. I mean, without question, Thompson was well deserved the Harris Sunderland Trophy, without question.
I had a bit of a look when I was fanning around in my spreadsheets yesterday, and Thompson started playing for Saints, its first team, in 2013. He played a few games there, but I don't have the numbers for that because it was before the podcast started, so I didn't keep the same stats. But I had a look before Hull FC at Magic Weekend in 2017 and after Hull FC at Magic Weekend in 2017, and he played And the key part of that date was when Justin Holbrook came in as St Helens coach. Now, the week before he got 119 metres, and the week of that game he got 119 metres. So he's clearly already starting to find his feet. But he's played roughly the same amount of games in that year and a half. In the 2.5 years, whatever, 2014 to mid-17, as he has mid-17 to now, right? Roughly the same amount of games. He was making roughly 24, 25 tackles per game before, and he was making roughly 26, 27 tackles a game on average since. So he's probably on the field a similar amount of time based on those tackling numbers, but he was making 9 to 10 carries a game. He's now making 15 to 16 carries a game. He was making 66 metres a game. He's now making 120 metres a game, 119 metres a game since Holbrook's come in. So clearly it might be an age timing thing as well with him, but he has absolutely blossomed in the last 2.5 years. And I think this being Holbrook's final game and Thompson's last game being coached under him in this country, we don't know what's going to happen in 12 months' time. But that situation, I think it was a crescendo of Thompson becoming the best prop most definitely in this country and arguably in the world under Justin Holbrook's reign, had to peak with him being this good in these last 2 matches that he's played under Holbrook.
Yeah, I think that's a fair observation. I think Thompson himself, he's a very quiet chap off the field. You don't really hear him talk very much, but I think if you did, he would acknowledge and recognise what Holbrook's done for him as a coach, from turning him into being someone I think most Saints fans would say was a real trier, always threw himself hard at the line, but was not somebody we were convinced was going to be a frontline prop for Saints, because he lacks physical stature in comparison to someone like a Walmsley or an Ashworth or someone like that. He doesn't have that height and weight advantage you would normally be looking for in a top prop. So I think we all thought he was a grand lad, but we weren't completely convinced he was going to be, a completely front line and certainly not an international prop. But Holbrook has brought the very, very best out of him, and there was I don't think there was anybody around where we were in the ground, and certainly people that I've talked to afterwards who thought anything other than Thompson ought to be the winner of the Man of the Match award for what he was. I couldn't believe it during the game. I kept looking up and seeing him. Has he been off yet? I don't think he's been off.
Yeah.
I don't think he's been off.
So I mean, that's where we'll now leave you with your final thoughts on the game, I suppose, David. Without just going through 1 to 17, who did you really think stood out for you guys, and what was your peak highlight moment of this match?
Well, I mean, Thompson, obviously, we've already talked about. Me and my crew and the Saints fans I've talked with since the game. We all felt Walmsley had a very good game. Coote had a very good game. We thought Salford did a super job on Lomax. They kept him relatively quiet during the game. They looked after him very well.
Yeah, Farge was arguably the better halfback.
Well, and lots of Saints fans were very complimentary about the job Farge, not just with the ball but without the ball. Some of those moments where Niall Evans was doing his curling runs, coming through the line, it was Theo Farge that was making those last ditch tackles to stop a break being made.
Yes,
there were at least 3 occasions where he was the man ankle tapping and just sort of getting them down. Thought Farge had a super game, and Zeb Tyre had a terrific game for us
must have been
as
the
well.
oldest player on the pitch, mustn't he? I think he's a year older than LMS, isn't he? So looking through these sides, and he got 150
really
odd meters.
Game.
He was, and a try, of course.
Yeah, and he was on for the full match, and he was still running hard at the end of the game. He's another player who's really done well under Holbrook. We were all wondering about whether his best days were behind him, but he's had a very good season